Yeah, hi everyone, welcome again in the session related to the mobile phone security in forensics. Myself, Dr. Divil Singh Rathod, Associate Professor and the Associate Dean, School of Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics, National Forensic Sciences University, which already have the status of institutions of national importance. Now, today I have a plan to discuss about the access control issues. And I would say that access control that deals with that does the person have a authorizations to access the resources or not. Okay, so I would say that the access control issues they normally deals with two important concepts of the internet, that is called authentication and the authorization. The authentications deals with, it's talk about does the person is have a required credentials to access the resources or the system or not. Take an example. Normally we implement this authentication using with the help of the authentication process, in the sense that we'll provide them the username and password, and those person have the required username and password, that person is allowed to access the resources. Okay, and the authorizations deals with the person who have the required username and password. Does that person who is already authenticated have a right or access right to access the resources or not? That is called authorization. I'll give you one more example. Suppose, you know, one day, suppose at a night, I'm in at my home and somebody will knock my door. Then I'll ask that who are you, because it is this has happened at the midnight. Then I'll say who are you. The person who is standing on the other side of a door, he will say I am Dr. Parag. Then I'll say that give me the key. Then the Dr. Parag will say, suppose talks, he gives his key could be the name, the combination of the name and the mobile number that I have. Then I'll say that, oh, you are authenticated because Dr. Parag has given the no valid key. It could be the mobile number, the combination of his name that is given by me only. Then he will speak by standing on the other side of the door that key, and I'll say that yes, you are authenticated. It means that the person who is inside the home will come to know that who is on the other side of the door. So he is authenticated. Now suppose Dr. Parag I'll open the door and he will come inside my home, and he will rush to my locker where I have put my all the cash. He's trying to open that lock. As soon as he's trying to open the lock, what I'll do is I'll ask him, I'll stop him to do this. And I'll say that Dr. Parag, you are authenticated, but you are not authorized to open my locker. That's it. Because he's not a person who is not authorized, or he don't have the access right to open that locker. That's it. That is called authorization. So the person who is authenticated, that's it. But that person has to be authorized or have a privileges or have an access right to access a certain, I would say, the resources. One more example. You are a student, I am a faculty member. Suppose if I log in our campus management system, I have a access. I'll got authenticated. The campus management system has given me a username and password. In using that username and password, I'll enter into the system. Once I'll enter into the system, I can open your examination paper and I can do assessment because I am authorized. I have the access rights. As in students, if you enter into the campus management system with your username and password, you are authenticated. But if you try to access those paper, you are not, because you are not authorized. So these are the, so for the access control issues, the authentications and the authorizations, they are a very main component. Today we are going to discuss about calling any of the activity without authorizations using the intent. So let's see. Now we know that there are four important components of the Android, that is activity, content provider, broadcast receiver, services, and one more is intent, I would say. Now remember one thing, activity deals with the interface. We know that the content provider, that is used to access any of the resources of the other application. Like if I want to access the data from the database of the other applications, I need to use a content provider. Broadcast receivers, we know that if the application wants to send any message or broadcast any message, then we normally use a broadcast receiver. Those applications who are registered for that broadcast receiver may can receive that broadcast, and that you can do using the broadcast intent. Services, we know that runs in the background. So these are the four different components. Now in the Android applications, we know that if the one applications have, they have the database, and if the other applications wants to access that database, then that applications is it needs to search for the content provided URL, which will be registered with the other application. Moral of the story is, if we have a two application, and if the one application wants to access the activity of the other application, if the one application wants to access any of the resources of the other applications, then that application, that has to declare the permissions. The second thing is, you know if they want to access, let's suppose, database, they need to use the content provider. If they want to call the other activity, they can use the intent. So the intent and the content provider, they are very important component if the activity wants to access other activity, or the activity of the one application wants to access the resources of the other application. Now second thing is, the component of the application should not be accessed by the other application. Obviously, if they want to access, either they can use the intent, or either they can use the broadcast, they can use the content provider. In some cases, the Android application share its resources with the other application. For examples, we can make a call by sending an intent to give such an access. First, the host application should declare a permission. The second is, the shared component should not disclose any secret data. And the third one is, the component should not threaten the user privacy. Okay, and that we can control with the help of the intent and the content provider. Now today we are going to access, I would say, we are demonstrate that if you don't keep care of internal intent, external intent, and the content provider in a right way, if you don't apply the proper security mechanism at the implementation level, then what will happen? Because we know that using the intent, one activity can access the other activity, and that could be the internal intent, that could be the external intent. The second thing is, the content provider, using the content provider, you can access any of the resources of the target applications. So the intent and content provider, whenever you deal with these two important components, you need to take a great care. So let's see that. Well, we'll back to our practicals, and we'll try to open our applications. And what I need is, I also need the Santoku. So we have two things in front of you. So this is what our application is. I'll open the DIVA. Now inside the DIVA, let me move into the access control issue part 1. Now when you click on it, just read the objective. You are able to access the API credentials. When you click the button, you try to access the API credentials from outside the application. The second thing is, component of an applications can be accessed from other applications or the user if they are not properly protected. The components such as activities, services, content providers are prone to this. Now what they're trying to discuss is, this is what one activity. Now if I want to access, if I'll click on it, I'll move into the second activity. So there are two activities. The first one is, as you can see on the screen, is view API credentials. When I click on it, you can move into the second credentials, that is called the vendor's API credentials. So we have a two activity. It means that when you move from one activity to other activity, obviously the first activity, which you can see on the screen, which have the button is called view API credential, that will call the other activity using the intent, obviously. Now take an example. Now suppose, it means that if I want to reach to this vendor API credential activity, I have to first click on the view API credential activity. Now somebody says that, sir, without clicking this activity, is it possible that can I call the second activity directly? I'll say yes, it is possible. Okay, now how dangerous it is? Take an example. You have a lock screen, or I would say you have most of the mobile phones, they have a screen through which you can either enter the pin number or either you can draw the pattern, and through which you can move into the main activity of your mobile phone. Now there are some I would say the applications. Somebody says that I want the customized lock screen in my mobile phone, is it? So that customized lock screen is ultimately APK file. That is an Android file only. So suppose somebody will download that customized lock screen applications from the internet. Take an example, and it will display one lock screen in front of you, and inside that lock screen you can enter the pin number or you can draw the pattern, and if it is correct you can move into the main screen of your mobile phone. So remember one thing, that application which you have downloaded, that is called the customized lock screen API, or the applications have the lock screen or the pattern activity in front of you like this. Take an example like this. Now when you enter the correct pin number or pattern, you will move into the other activity. Now suppose if somebody will find the way to call the second activity directly, then what will happen? Then what will happen is, without entering the pin or drawing the pattern, you can call the second activity directly. This is what we are trying to discuss today. That is called the access control. Okay, now for that what we have to do is we just move into the Syntoku. Okay, now inside the Syntoku, first we will see, because here the one activity is calling the other activity. It means there is a involvement of the intent in between. So let me try to see the manifest file. So I'll do one thing. I'll already inside the, let me move into the download folder, because we have already, I'm trying to open the Android manifest.xml file. So here we normally have a cd DIVA. We have already unzipped, and I'll say ls. Here we have the XML file. Now let me try to open the XML file, cat Android XML file. Okay, now the problem is we are not able to view the XML file. Was it? We already discussed why we are not able to access, can view this XML file, because if you check, like suppose take an example, if you check, we have this DIVA folder directory which is unzipped. We just unzipped our diva-beta.apk file, and this is the unzipped version of your apk file, and we know that the unzipped is not a, I would say it's not a decompilation of your apk file, and that's why we are not able to read the android.xml file. We can do one thing, we can use the apk tool then, because we know that the apk tool that is used to decompile your entire apk file into the Smalley code. So we can write apk tool, just a minute, let me check. So we'll just write apk tool, and it's a D, that is for the decompilations, and we need to give the name of our apk file, that is diva-beta. Let's see. So he has started the decompilation. We'll wait for a second. Yes, we have some error also. We'll do one thing, we'll just write ls. Whenever you do ls, the apk file normally generate the directory with the same name of your Android application. So he has created a diva beta. We'll just try to move into diva beta and try to find our XML file. Unless I'm not able to find the android.xml, means my apk tool is not able to generate the complete decompiled code from the diva beta.apk. Let's see inside what do we have in the chapter. No, I don't think that we have the apk file. Oh sorry, we don't have the XML file. Manifest file, I don't have it, in the sense that in this case I am not able to get the complete decompilations using the apk. That may happen also. Now what could be the another way? Another alternate could be we can use a browser modules to view the APK file, then we can do one thing. Let me go from this one. Suppose if you fail, if you tried and if you fail, you can try other alternate ways to view the APK file. I'll do one thing. For that I need to use a browser. Then I'll say that we'll back to over here only. For that we need to first see that I need to use the ADB devices. I need to connect with, okay, I'm already connected with this one. So let me do one thing. Let me start the browser, enable our server, and here it is the port number is, I think it's a 31415. So what we need to do is browser and forward TCP colon 31415 TCP colon 31415. Just a minute, I have to check. I did the mistake is, I think we should write first we need to start the browser, then I should not write ADB forward TCP. I think we already wrote this. We just need to change this one. Instead of the browser I need to write the ADB. Okay, and then browser console connect. Browser console connect. So now we are already connected with the browser. Now let me check the modules that we have. So let me open the modules, and here in the modules we can see what is a module to check our, I would say, manifest file. Okay, we have this one, that is called the app.package.manifest. app.package.manifest. So we can write just a run app.package okay, I'm doing some mistake. Oh, it's app.package. Oh, same. Oh, it's not run. I did the mistake. I should write run app.package.manifest and chakra.machine.diva. Okay, so we are able to get the manifest file in the easiest way. Okay, now we'll try to check that do we have the access control activity or not. Okay, so I'm able to find this access control activity, that is called the jacker.assume.diva access control activity. Now just below this, what I'm trying to find it, I can find that there is also one more activity, that is called jacker.assume.diva API credits activity, and this activity has one intent filter, and this intent filter is looking for an action is called view underscore creds. Okay, so this is what the action, in the sense that this activity that is called the API creds activity, this activity will anybody can initiate, is it, because using the action is called action.view.creds. Now we'll do one thing. Let me open the one more terminal and let me move into the downloads, sorry, and let me move into the DIVA and let me open that the source code of it. So for that we can use a GUI and classes-dex.jar. so now this is what it's available in front of you. Now we'll do one thing, we'll try to see where is access control activity. So I think this is what the access control activity. Now let's see the code. Now what this code is doing, this is called the access control activity, and here we have the view API credentials. This method could be called when we click on that button. And here what he has done is he has created the intent, object of the intent, and here he has wrote that the object of the intent dot set action. Okay, so when you click on that button, what it will do, oh no, they will fire the action is called action dot view underscore cards. And what this action dot views underscore cards, we already seen that. We can see here in this here that this action it is registered with the API credits activity. Okay, in the sense that so when you click on the button, that button will call this method, and this method will do, it will create the intent, and this intent is fired with the action is called the view underscore creds, and this action is got registered with the activity name is called API creds activity. And we'll check this activity, the API creds activity. I think it could be any of it. This is just a minute. Okay, so we have this activity is listed here. Okay, and what this activity is normally do is trying to just display the key username and password, the key username and password. Okay, so now what we are trying to do is we are trying to call that the second activity without initiating the first activity. So we'll do one thing, we'll move here where into our, I would say in the ADB, and let me open one more terminal. Okay, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to, I would say, quick start our second activity. That is, quick start the second activity in the sense that we are trying to quick start, I would say, which activity we are trying to quick start the second activity, that is called the API creds to activity, is it, without even initiating the first activity. So we are trying to kick out the second activity without authorization. Okay, so what we have to do is, for that, what we are going to do is we are going to first do the ADB shell. So ADB shell. Okay, so we are in the root of our I would say emulator. Now once we move into the ADB shell, that is one I would say the concept is available, is called activity manager. So if you write EM, this is available. So when you write the EM, you'll find so many different options. So using the activity managers, you can do the different activities with I would say with your activity. You can call the second activity, any of the activity, using any of the intent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear it, and here what we are going to write, we are just trying to write EM, that is called the activity manager, start dash A, and we are going to start the second activity using the intent, registered intent. And we know that what is registered intent, so we can open this one, and this is what our intent is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this intent, okay, and using this intent I'm going to quick start our second activity, that is called API creds to activity. So just moved here and I'll say paste. Now remember one thing, before I'll press enter, let's check that what do we have on the screen. Let me minimize this one. So I don't have anything on the screen. Okay, now what will happen is, suppose when I entered, what this will do is this will fire this intent, and this intent has an action is called view underscore creds, and we know that this action is registered with the API credentials related activity. So when you click on it, what will happen is it will starting the intent, and you can just check on your Android that the second activity has, you can see it on in front of you. I think I have used the wrong intent. Let me check, because he has started I would say he has started the activity of some he has used the intent of some other activity. I think I did some mistake. Let me move back into my this one and let me check that which one is the right okay, here is, I think I should use this intent. I have used this the other intent that is called the creds2. I think I should use this intent only to quick start that activity. I think I should move this one. Okay, and let me check here. See, the second activity has started. Without initiating or accessing the first activity, I can quick start the second activity, and this should not happen. At least the first activity, is it, which you can see here, which one is, that is when I click on the view API credentials, and you know, this should pass some key, and that key has to be authenticated into the second activity. Then only the second activity should show the detail, some of the confidential detail. Here what will happen is, you know, they are calling the second activity through the first activity using the external intent, and which is always very dangerous. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to use the same practical using the browser. So we'll do it with the browser. I am already in the prompt of the browser. So first we'll get the informations about our package. So we know that there is one, just a minute, there is one modules available is called package.info and chakra.machine.diva. So what this will do, this will give us the list of the detail about the package. Now I can see that there are three permissions. One is a write external storage, read external storage, and there is an internet. So I'm not able to, okay, so these are only three permissions which this package app.package.info, it is extracted from the, I would say from the XML file. Okay, so let's see that. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to find the attack surface. So for that we know that we already have one I would say the module that is called app.package.attack surface, and we need to provide the chakra machine.diva. Okay, so we will come to know that there are, I would say, the three activity and one content provider, is it, but we don't know that is exported, and one content provider is also got exported, but the problem is we don't know what are the name of those publicly available activities. So we'll do one thing, we'll try to run, no, we don't know that what are those publicly accessible activities. So there is one, I think if you check you'll find one package is called, you know, our aim is to know that what are those publicly accessible activity. So provider, okay, there is one, okay, there is one package is called app.activity.info. so we'll try to see that how many activities are there. So app.package.activity, oh sorry, it is activity, so .activity.info -a and chakra.machine.diva. Okay, so these are the three activity. Okay, and I think all these three activities are, I would say that it's a publicly accessible. Now what we are trying to do is we'll try to see that, you know, we'll try to see that I'm not even able to see that does this activity requires any permissions or not. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take each of the activities and try to call those activities with the intent. Okay, so we'll do one thing. How will you do this? You can just you can run, even if you write this a list, you can find that how do we start that activity. Then in the activity only you can find one package is called, module is called app.activity.start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same one is called app.activity as it dot start. and here you need to provide the component flag, and after that you need to provide your package name, DIVA, and here you need to provide the name of the activity which we already have received. So what we'll do is we'll take, just a minute, let me go up and try to take any of it. Let me take this one, copy and paste it. Okay, now when you click, whenever you entered, you will find that the activity is already got initiated. Let me do one thing. Let me again will move into the home page and let me try to call that activity. Okay, when you click on it, you'll find that, see, the activity is got it's called. Then this should not happen. So this is what the way you can do. One thing, you can test each of the activities and you can verify that is there a way that the person can call any of that activity without any kind of authorizations or without any kind of authentication. Now to back to our presentation. So here I wrote the steps that how can you simulate the vulnerability, attack on the vulnerabilities, and how do you exploit that vulnerabilities that I have shown here step by step. So this is what ultimate aim is to discuss. So what is the moral of the story is, whenever you use a content provider or the intent to call your activity or any of the services or any of the broadcast receiver, please see that you should use a proper security mechanism. So it should not be that anybody will come and can call the second activity without the authentications or the authorizations. Anybody can come and call access your user defined services or the broadcast receivers without the authentications and authorizations. I think this is enough for today. Thank you. Bye.